Hello, good morning friends. Welcome back to your favorite channel Code1 Digest. Today in this tutorial we will learn how to code book microservice with MongoDB in Node.js. Yes friend, this is a part 2 of this tutorial. In this part we will be learning how to code microservices in Node.js with the MongoDB as a backend. Yes friend, if you remember in the previous video we learned what is Node.js and what all modules we are going to use for this microservices. How we are going to connect it to MongoDB, what all different components we have in our project. So now in this part, we are purely going to cover the coding aspect of this project. Let me show you the agenda of this tutorial today. So we will be coding for the book microservices. I will show you the code implementation of module like routes, controller, service module, repository layer module, database models, and application. Then once the coding is completed, I'll run the microservice application and then I'll be testing all the endpoints of book microservices to insert data, to get data, to update data, and to delete data into our database. With me friends, clear? Okay friends, so here are some prerequisites for this tutorial today. You should have a Node.js, you should have a MongoDB, you should have a MongoDB Compass, that is a MongoDB UI tool to see the data into Mongo database. Then it's good to have Postman API development and testing tool where we can test our endpoints. And also an editor. I'm using Visual Studio Code, and these are the version of all these applications that I'm using. You can try to use the latest version. Okay, let me just recap what we covered in our part 1 video. And if you have not seen that video, I would recommend to go and see the part 1 because I have covered the introduction of the project there and I have explained all the modules that we are going to use in this project. That means I have explained what is Express module used for, what is the use of Mongoose module, what is the use of Axios module, UUID module, and body parser module. So I explained that in detail with an architecture diagram that what we are trying to achieve in this tutorial. So go and see the part 1 video for a theory, and now in this part 2 video I am going to cover the coding aspect of this project. So without any further delay, let me take you to the coding of this project. Right friends, with me? Friends, before we proceed in this video, I request you to subscribe this channel to grow Code1 Digest family. Friends, I am creating a lot of quality videos on programming, coding concepts, design pattern and design principles, cloud and container technologies, but I'm not getting subscribers. I request you to like, share and subscribe this channel so that I can grow our Code1 Digest family. Thank you. Okay friends, so now let's start with the code implementation of book microservices in Node.js with MongoDB. So before we start with the coding, you have to install those prerequisite packages what I was talking about. So you have to install the Express packages and you can install using this command npm install express. But before that, you must have a node installed in your machine. You get node installed and then you have to install this express package. Same way, you have to install the mongoose package, and the command to install mongoose package is npm install mongoose. Same way, body parser, you can install body parser with npm install body parser, and you can install the uuid with npm install uuid. Don't worry, I'll share all this command in my readme file as well. So you will have all these commands readily available to install all the required software. Right friends? Okay. Okay friends, so now let me start with the coding implementation. How can you write microservice in Node.js? So we have to start very first with package.json file. In package.json file, we write what all dependencies we have, what all packages we want to use in this application. So if you see, I have defined the Express, Mongoose, body parser, and UUID. As you install those packages in this folder, in your application folder, so automatically this entry will be added in package.json. So you have to make sure that these modules, these packages are showing up after installation in package.json. Then I have just added one script here to start my application. I'll show you how to use this later. And these are the basic information of your package.json. As you create a new application, this package.json will be created with name, version, description. Okay, let me show you what all folders I have in this project. I'm at the root of my project where I have this package.json. Package log.json, you need not to make any changes. This package log.json is created automatically when you build your application with all the dependency and third-party dependencies and so on. This is the structure of my project where I have a config, roots, then controller, then service, then repository and data models. And I also have a util to have some constant useful files. So let's see the configuration file. We'll see the configuration file. It's very simple. Okay, let's start with the configuration file, what we have in configuration file. So I have created one database configuration.js file where I am saying module.export books MongoDB URL, Mongo URL. So this variable you can define, you can give any name and you can export it. The value of this variable is the URL, database URL of your Mongo database. If you're running your MongoDB in your local host, then you have to give 0000 because it was not working for me with the local host or 127.00.1. After debugging into Google, I found that for latest version, for few of the developer, it is working with 0.0, and for me also it is working. It started working with 0.0.0.0, and this is the port 27017, and this is the name of our database. So if you see in this is a MongoDB compass, this is my books database, and I have a books collection in that database. So it is running in my local host, hence I have given this 000. If you are running the MongoDB on some remote machine, so you have to give the IP address of that machine here, right friends? And what we're saying is export this URL using module.export. So it will be available when we import this module into other module, this books Mongo URL will be available to us. Now what I'll do is I'll show you the repository layer. And before that, let me show you the model class first. So I have a books model. Here the business object is a book where all my operations are surrounding the book object, like adding of a book, then getting all the books, finding a book, updating a book information or deleting a book information. So hence I have a book as a business object. So if you see here, I am importing a Mongoose module here. This Mongoose module is coming from what we have installed, what we have mentioned here in this dependency. So Mongoose is loaded here in a variable Mongoose. Then we are creating a schema out of this Mongoose, and we are creating an instance of this book. We are creating an instance of this schema as a book schema and defining the attribute of that object. So the first attribute is UUID. It's type of a string. Second attribute is a name. That is the name of a book. It's also a string. Then third attribute is author name, who is the author of that book, is again a string. And release date. What is the release date of the book? And it's of type date. So we have defined the structure of our object, what all attributes are there in that object. Finally, when this is done, we'll be exporting this book schema here. So what we are saying is module.export and using Mongoose, mongoose.model book schema. So whenever we want to perform operation on a book object in MongoDB, that time we'll be calling this schema. Let us see in the repository class. Okay, let me open the repository class now. So this is my book repo.js where I have defined this book repository class, and I have a constructor where I'm initializing the book model. I'm passing the book model from outside. Whenever I'm using this class, so I'm passing a book model from a calling component. Okay. And then in this class, I have defined few methods like add book, where I'm passing the UUID, name, release date, and author name as a parameter. And then what I'm saying is this dot book model. See, I'm performing an operation on a model. I'm performing that operation. This dot book model dot create. Mongoose is kind of a ORM, object relation mapping, which help us in creating a mapping between our domain object with a collection, okay, in database. So we are directly performing that operation. This dot book model dot create. It will create a book object with this data: UUID, name, release date, and author name. Now I have a second method where I'm getting all the books available in the database. So this dot book model dot find. Find is a out of the box method provided by Mongoose to get domain object, right? And domain object here is a book. So it will get me all the book object available in the database. I'm also writing another method to get a book by UUID. So this dot book model dot find one, and by passing the UUID, it will get me a book with that unique ID. Now I have another method to update a book where I'm passing the data UUID, name, release date, and author name. So in this, I'm calling this dot book model dot find one and update. This is the out of the box Mongoose method to update an object in MongoDB. And here I am passing the UUID. It will first get the object for that UUID and it will set the value for that object. Right, friends? Then I have another method delete book by ID. Again, we are passing the UUID to find an object and then delete it. So how are we deleting it? This dot book model dot find one and delete. So in above we were doing find one and update. Here we are doing find one and delete by passing the UUID. So it will delete the book object in MongoDB. And finally, what we are doing is we are exporting this repository class. If you see, this is the repository class. Out of that repository class, we are defining module.export is equal to book repository. Now this repository class is used in my service layer in book service. So let us see the book service now. Okay, so now in book service, we are importing a UUID module, and then we are also importing our constant module that we have defined in our util package. So in constant module, I have defined some of the messages with their status code. I'm defining 200 and the respective message that operation is successful. Same way 201 when the record is created successfully, 404 when no record found, 500 if there is any internal server error, and 422 when data validation fails. So these are some constant messages I have created. So I'm using that with the name custom resource response. Okay. Now I'm creating a book service here, class book service having constructor. Now in this constructor, I am passing a book repository. So book repository, we are passing it from outside and we'll be using this object book repo to perform all the operation. Okay. Now I have defined add book. Okay. And before that method name, we are putting a async keyword. This tells that this method is asynchronous method. It will run asynchronously, right? That is the power of Node.js. Need not to wait for or hold for that operation to complete. Okay. So I have defined a method add book. We are getting a request object. Then from request object, we are retrieving the body. So from body, we are retrieving all of that. And we are generating a unique ID using a UUID module that we have imported above. We are saying UUID.v4. So here we will be getting 16 byte unique identifier, unique string. Now we have that. And at this line, I am saying that this dot book repo, because book repo is the object that we have passed in a constructor, this dot book repo dot add book. If you remember, in the book repo, we have defined this method add book, and it was accepting all these four parameters: UUID, book name, release date, and author name. So we are calling it that we are calling the repo method in this service class in add book function. Then we are checking if the book object is created successfully, because that method is returning a book object. If not, if this is null or this is empty, then we are sending the error message with the status code. That server error. We could not save that book. If a book is not empty and having a proper object, then we are setting a message that that book is created successfully, and this is a status code. 201 is a status code that we are getting it. And data, in the data response.data, we are setting the book object itself. And finally, we are returning a response for this add book function. Right, friends? Same way, we have another method, getAllBook, in service layer, where I am calling this dot book repo dot getAllBooks. This is giving me all the books available in our repository, in our database. And again, we are checking if the book object is empty or not. If empty, then we'll be showing the error message. If not, we'll be showing the successful message with those object list. Why we have said books? Because we are getting all the books. Hence, it is going to be kind of a list of a books or array of the books. Now, next method is get book by ID. And here we are getting a request object. From request object, we are retrieving a unique ID. Okay. And by calling this repository method, this dot book repo dot get book by ID, we are passing the ID here and we are getting the book. If a book is not found with that ID, we will be showing the error message that record not found. And if the book object is found with that unique ID, then we'll be showing the successful message here with the success 200 response code. And the data of response object is book, and we are returning a response here. Same way, we have update book by ID method, where we will be updating the book object. We are retrieving the name, release date, author name from the request object, and we are calling this method this dot book repo update book by ID, and by passing all those four parameters: UUID, name, release date, and author. So book repository will find if there is an object available in database with this UUID. If yes, then it will set this new value for that object. If update is not successful, then we'll show the error message that record not found. And if update is successful, then we'll show a success message which with 200 status code, and data is the updated book object. Same way, we have a delete method where we'll be deleting the object by calling this dot book repo delete book by ID by passing the UUID. If delete is not successful, then we'll show the error message, and if delete is successful, then we'll be setting the message status code and the body accordingly. Finally, after all this operation, we are exporting the book service. If you see here, module.exports is equals to book service. Okay, friends, so you need not to worry about all of this code. This code and this project is available in my Git repository. You can download the code from this Git repository. I'll be sharing a link in description section of this video, so you can clone this project and start using it. All the instructions how to compile and run this application is given in README. I have given the architecture diagram, then I have explained the prerequisites, all the commands, how to start, how to test. In fact, I have also shared the Postman collection in test Postman folder. So this JSON you can import in your Postman and you will have all those operations ready to test. So in testing, how to test, the instructions are there to import the Postman collection and start using it. And these are the endpoints that we have defined as a part of this application. We have post endpoint, get all, then get by ID, update by ID, and delete by ID. Okay, so just download this repository in your local and start using it. Okay, friends. Okay, friends. So now I have shown you the book service. Next, what we'll see is the controller. Our controller component calls the service. So now we will see a controller. So in this controller, you can see I'm importing the book service module. I'm also importing the book repository module. And then I'm creating a book model by importing a book from a model directory. So this book model is created. Then I'm initializing an object of a book repository by passing the book model. Now I'm creating an instance of book service by passing the instance of book repository here. So I'm creating book service is equal to new book service by passing the book repository object that I have created at line number 7. Now I'm defining and exporting the method one by one in controller class as well. So I'm saying the method name is addBook and it is going to run asynchronously. It has request, response, and next parameters. And in this method, if you see, I'm calling the method of service layer, that is book service dot add book, right? If everything is fine, status code in response object will be is getting set accordingly. If there is error, then error will be printed here. Same way, I have a get all method where I'm calling the book service dot get all books. Get book by ID, then I'm calling the book service dot get book by ID. Same way, I have update book by ID. So I'm calling book service dot update book by ID. And I have method delete book by ID. So I'm calling book service dot delete book by ID. So all the methods in the control layer is calling the methods of book service layer as we have seen in the architecture diagram. Right, friends? Now we will see our roots component. Now, friends, let's see a root component. What roots, what endpoints we have defined. So this is my book roots.js file where I'm importing Express because Express give me all the libraries and functions that is required to create a web application or mobile application or microservice applications. So using Express only, I can define a routes. Then from Express, I'm creating a router to create route, all my routes. Then I'm also importing a controller because I'll be calling the method of controller for each and every route. So if you see, my first route is it's of type post and it is to add a book saying /book/add. So whenever user calls this /book/add, I'll be calling book controller dot add book function. Then I have another endpoint of type get /books, that is to get all the books. And here I'm calling book controller dot get all books. I have another get endpoint /book colon UUID. That means I want to get books by unique ID. So I am calling method here book controller dot get book by ID. I have a put method. The endpoint is /book colon UUID, and I am calling a book controller dot update book by ID. Then I have delete endpoint /book colon UUID, and I am calling controller dot delete book by ID. Right, friends? So roots is taking a request and calling the book controller function. And finally, we are exporting module.exports this router. So this router is now exposed. Now let me show you our main server application JavaScript file. That is our book server.js. This is where is the application is getting stitched and our application is starting. So this is our JavaScript file to start our microservices. So here I am importing Express, body parser, and Mongoose module. Then I am also importing the our custom responses from a constant file. I am loading a database configuration because we will be connecting to database. As I shown you in a database config, I have a URL of database, so that I am importing it here. And then finally I'm importing a routes because I'll be routing all incoming requests through a router. I'm creating an app using express function. Then in app, I'm saying that I'll be using the body parser. And if you see line number 13, where I'm connecting to a MongoDB database. So mongoose.connect, and in the connect function, I'm taking dbconfig.bookmongo URI. That means I'm passing first parameter is the URL of my database that I'm passing through database config, and then it is printing console.log that MongoDB is connected if it is successful. If there is error, then I am printing a error here in catch block. Then I'm defining all my routes by saying app.use the endpoint of my application and book routes. How the endpoint will be created? I will say localhost 8080 slash API slash v1 and then the endpoint what we have defined in our routes. Then these are some error handling for 404, how to send this message if the URL, if the user is entering a wrong URL. So we have to show this message. This again an error handling. Finally, we have defined at which particular port we want to run our application, that is 8080. And then at this line number 37, I'm saying app.listen. That means I'm saying start my server on this port, app.listen port 8080, and I'm printing that book server started and listening on a port, right? So this is where my application starts. Okay, friends, clear? Now what I'll do is I'll start this application and then we'll be testing these endpoints. I'll show you that. Okay, so now we have seen all the component, all the modules in this project. Now let me show you how can you start this application. So if you remember in our package.json, I have given a command. You can also run using a node command like node and give the book server.js. You can run that way, or we can start our application through npm command. Npm run. This is the name of my command. Start book server. Start book server. Right, friend? So I'll do that. Yes, so it says book server started and listening on the port 8080, and it says MongoDB is also connected. Right, friends? So let us see what we have first in MongoDB. I'm using this MongoDB compass, and if I just refresh this, I have these two books created, and these I've created during my testing. So we will now hit the endpoint and see if we are getting the data. So server is now up and running. Let test our endpoint. So the server is, so now I'll go to a postman, and if you see, this is my collection where I have get all books, then add book, update book, and delete book endpoints I have created. So let me try to hit this get all book first. I have given HTTP localhost 8080 slash API slash v1 books. Let me hit now. Yes, so it is 200 response I am getting. If you see, I am getting those two record what we saw in the MongoDB compass. I got this book with UUID, this with the name my book, author name is Pavan Modi, and release date is this. Then another record I have with UUID this, name of the book is my book 2, and author name is John, and this is the release date. Now what we'll do is we'll try to add another book through a post endpoint. So how is my post endpoint look like? Again, localhost 8080 slash API slash v1 slash book add. Okay, friends. So now this is the body that I'm sending. I'm sending three attributes: name of my book, that is my book 3, the author name of the book is Ravi, and release date is this. Let me hit this, right? So let's see. Now it's saying 201 response, 201 that is created. and it says record has been created successfully. This is a UUID it has assigned. You remember UUID, it is creating from a UUID component that we have imported, right? So it is giving a unique ID. This is we have used as a primary key, and name of my book 3, author name Ravi, and this is a release date. So that item is created. Now what we'll do is we'll do a get all to see if the third book is also getting created. Okay, now let me hit this endpoint to get all the books now, right? It says 200, and now let us see how many books we have received. 1, 2, and this is 3. Yes, so this is our third book that we have just created with this UUID, same UUID, my book 3, author is Ravi, and this is the release date. So we have successfully added a book. That means our add endpoint is working fine. Now what we'll do is we'll try to update our book. Okay, we will take this UUID, and in this we are using put as a method here, and if you remember, the endpoint to update is 8080 API v1 book colon the UUID, the UUID of our object. So I'll have to give this UUID now to update it, and what it will update with. So this is the body of my updated book. So I'll say my book 3, but Ravi is not an author. I'll say Kumar is the author. Okay, and the release date is now 10th August instead, right? Or I'll say 10 September. Okay, so this is how I'm updating the information for the given UUID. Let me hit that. Yes, so it says 200. That means the record is updated in the backend, and I got the same UUID with this updated information. The book name is my book 3, but now author name is updated to Kumar instead of Ravi, and the release date is also updated to September 10. Let us see also in the backend side. If we refresh here, this is my book 3 and the author name is Kumar and release date is September 10. Now what we'll do is we'll perform a delete operation where we'll be deleting one book by passing a UUID. So let me use the same UUID that I want to delete this book. So if you see the endpoint localhost 8080 API v1 book, and by passing the UUID. There is no body involved here because we are deleting the book object by just ID by UUID. Let us hit that. So yes, it says 200. That means the request has been processed successfully. It means that book record is deleted from the database. To validate that, we'll call a get all book our endpoint to make sure that my book 3 we are not getting now in a response. Yes, so it's saying 200 response, and how many books we have got? 1 and 2. And if you see, I have not received my book 3 in this response. I just have my book 2. Let also validate from the backend from MongoDB Compass. Now it was showing 3 records earlier. Let me refresh this. Now it become 2 records. So it has my book and it has my book 2, but it doesn't have a my book 3. So that means our delete endpoint is also working absolutely fine. So if you see how simple and easy and convenient it is to create microservices in Node.js using MongoDB as a backend. Right friends, with me? I hope this tutorial is useful to you. You can download the code from my repository, Git repository, and play with it. If you have any query, if you have any comment, please feel free to write in the comment section of this video. I will try to help and I try to answer your query. Or if you have any suggestion, please share with me. How can we improve the tutorial in future? Right friends, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you're new to our channel, so please do subscribe to our channel to grow Code1Digest family. Okay friends, let me summarize what we learned in this tutorial today. I gave you introduction of the project, then we understood the packages that we are using in this project like Express, Mongoose, UUID, body parser, and so on. Then I shown you the code implementation of all the modules like routes, controller, service layer, repository layer, database models, and our application server, and also config layer and util classes. Then I have shown you how to run our microservices and test our endpoints through Postman API testing tool. So friends, let me know if you have already used these packages in your project or you have another approach to create microservices in Node.js. So provide your answer in the comment section of this video. Friends, if you like this video, so give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel for the more interesting videos. Click on the bell icon for the latest video notifications and do not forget to share this video with all your friends and colleagues. This is very useful information for students, beginners, and software engineers. I am putting a lot of efforts in creating these contents, so please help me growing the Code One Digest family. Please subscribe to Code One Digest channel for the latest programming and technology related videos. Thank you.